Hello, welcome back to the channel. Good to have you back. My name is Benji. I'm the controversial cyclist, and I'm going to get straight into today's video. Okay, today I'm going to talk about the Trump trade war. Basically, the war that's going on between the US and China, or should we just say, yeah, it is just the US versus China, and I don't think China are that bothered the other way around. And about how this is going to affect you buying bicycles, mainly from just American brands. But I do want to actually highlight one of the biggest players in the game and how they think that tariffs are a good thing and only they will profit from it. But I'll go into that very, very soon. Okay, without further ado, let's get straight into this. Cycling news. Now, this was highlighted by a viewer of this channel. Said, would I do a piece on this? And I'm thinking about it and reading this, news snippet or this, this news piece. I was like, hell yeah, I will do this, because this is, foremost to us as cyclists, whether you do it for work, leisure, or transport, or whatever that is. It's about, can we afford to still do it? Now, the bicycle itself is it's an extension of our own body. We don't have to put fuel in it. You don't have to tax and insure it. It's not affected by any government lobbying, and I don't think it ever should be, thank God, or government charges. Now, this will affect us if you are buying American branded bicycles. Now, if this kicks off a trade war, and I don't want to get into that because that's more of a political thing, where everyone else starts implementing trade restrictions and import taxes on everyone else, we are screwed. But I don't think that's going to happen. So I think things will stay the same within Europe, within the UK and its relationship with Europe. And actually, I just think we're going to have to take the hit in the UK and take that 10% hit. Now, if you don't know, goods from the US that are over £150 are going to be charged with an extra 10% levy on them. So you're going to be paying more for those goods. Now, that is an import tax that's going to be charged. If you're in the European Union, you're listening to this, you are going to be being charged between 20 and 25%. And that's a major, major increase. So let's just quickly go through and see how fucking deluded, and I'm a spoiler alert there, Specialized Vice President is, and as a whole, I think Specialized as a company are deluded. But anyway, let's explain. Specialized Vice President lobbies US government for stricter tariffs on foreign imports, citing illegal import of fentanyl as a key reason. Now, this is absolute BS in my opinion. This is what they are using as a problem so they can actually implement taxes. Let's be sure about that. I'm not saying that they haven't got a terrible fentanyl problem in the US. I do think they have, but I don't think that import taxes are going to stop that. The flow of drugs can only be stopped with a good border force and decent policing and education. So that's just my 2 pence worth in there. But to have a vice president of a bicycle company revert back to ridiculous sayings like this. I could understand if this was a company that made pharmaceutical devices that helped people that had OD'd on fentanyl, whether it was a company that represented the police, the fire service, frontline services that were dealing with people with fentanyl, or basically, things that where they wanted to clean up the street. But a fucking bicycle company, Specialized, that actually just sells leisure products. I just think it's a low blow. Now, let's just go through. It's absolute bollocks, really, to be honest. But let's try and keep with the thread of this, because I just think he's deluded, the guy, if he thinks that's the truth. But I know he doesn't think that's true. It's just that they're trying to get more money. So, the executive vice president of US cycling giant Specialized Bicycle Components has lent on the Trump administration to crack down on cheap bicycle imports, citing billions of dollars in missed tariffs and illegal import of fentanyl as a key. So he's another one that will be championing these tariffs to actually, help them become more competitive in the marketplace. I don't know how that's going to be when their price of export of every good that they sell has gone up. So basically, there's so much more choice than to buy Specialized in there. But hey, that's another spoiler alert. I will go on. A change of trade policy with an incoming new administration is nothing new and is to be expected. It's far from newsworthy to point out that the Trump administration has a far more protectionist and isolationist trade policy than the previous Biden administration did. New trade policies often come with a period of public consolidation, a chance for individuals and businesses alike to air their grievances on the current system, suggest alternatives, and outline the impacts. These comments are a matter of public record, and it's come to the attention of cycling news that Specialized Executive Vice President Robert McGarvis, I've butchered that name, I do apologise, or at least someone using his name, is among the 768 reports, or 768 reports, lobbying the Trump administration, which he calls for stricter import regulations. Now, it is a puff piece, I would say, but it does sound like it's got some merit and there is some logic to it on why he would. Now, I think it's just short-sighted because, spoiler alert, another one, is that Merida used to own 49% of Specialized. They were the company that saved Specialized from going to the wall. And all of these American companies, except for Trek, have been to the fucking wall. So that's Cannondale, that's Specialized, that's Schwinn, that's GT. They've all been bought out because they were failing companies and they hit the wall. And there's nothing wrong with that. Hard times, we all go through hard times. Everyone fucks up. Things happen globally, rada. Now, correct me if I'm wrong as well about Trek. So please, I could be wrong about that. But I do know that Specialized went to the wall. And this is why they were bought out. Now, they now have a very, very influential and strong friend, the second biggest bicycle manufacturer in the world, and they make all their own products. So Merida Bicycles make their own bicycles, and they make for many other bicycle brands in the industry, much like Giant do. Giant make Trek bicycles, and they make for many other people in the industry. Both Taiwanese, they're both, are major players in this game. Giant's number one and Merida's number two in the world. Now, they are fighting each other for top spot. But let's be very sure about this, is that Specialized itself would not exist without Merida. But let's also be very sure that your Specialized bicycle, that if you own today or you're going to go and buy one, is built in the Merida factory. They come off the Merida factory line. Yes, the R&D might be a little bit different. Yes, the specs might be a little bit different. But at the end of the day, they're still built in the same facility. Now, a Specialized product was always 20 to 25, possibly 30% more than the Merida product. And the Merida products are good. Yes, Specialized are good bicycles. I like them a lot. I owned quite a few of them in my lifetime, and I would own them again. I just wouldn't pay the prices for them now. I'd rather give my money to Merida and have that experience and save the money for possibly a product that's just as good. Anyway, getting back to this, that now means that potentially your Specialized product, if you're in the UK, is now going to be 35 to 40% more than buying a Merida product, if Merida don't put their prices up as well. Now, this is the worrying part, is that when Specialized fucking shout, everyone listens in the bicycle industry, and they seem to move the whole bicycle industry globally, which you'll see you'll see SKUs or lines being cut and Specialized first, then Trek did it, then Cannondale did it, and everyone shrunk and everyone followed suit. You'll see unemployment, or you'll see restructuring happening in Specialized, and all the other major players in the bicycle industry will follow Specialized. And this is what worries me here. This looks like that this could be Specialized again, telling the market what to do. Now, if we're in Europe and we get, or in the UK, I should say, as we know we're no longer the EU or the European Union, we're from this region, and everyone puts their prices up around you to the level that Specialized do, we are absolutely fucked, because it will just alienate even more people from cycling. Now, I don't know if that's how fucking retarded this guy is, their vice president, because literally he's taken a gun and just shot himself in the face, much like I think Donald Trump has with these tariffs. I think that these tariffs are going to affect Americans a lot more, and a lot more in their pockets, than they are ever going to affect somebody from the UK or someone from Europe or from Australia or from Asia, because we have shitload of choice. We have a load more trading partners, and we're not the ones that are actually forcing this tariff war. We're not interested in it. Let's be sure about this. It's only America that's interested in this. So the America First mantle and how they're going to go about that, you're seeing something that has not been spoken about and that I didn't realise. Now, if you have a look at this, it's called the minimis exemption. Now, the minimis exemption in the UK is you can bring in goods from anywhere around the world and not pay import tax on them as long as they're under £150, which sits at the moment at $174. You can see it in front of you on the screen there. Australia's really good for $630. Canada's only $14. China's got none, so that's completely like taken the piss, basically. China is taking the piss because they're just forcing everyone to buy Chinese, and that benefits them, and then they're exporting to the rest of the world. France is $161, Germany's $162, Japan's only $66, New Zealand's very nice to their people at $573, and Singapore's very nice as well at $298. Now, as you have a look at all of those, America has no import fees as long as it's under $800, and then it'll be comparable after. Anything after the $800 is only what you're going to pay on import fees. Now, they've had that decentness, that decent advantage for years, absolutely years, for their own people to obviously pay less import tax and make it very attractive for Americans to buy abroad and not buy at home, because obviously it's cheaper to import, or if you want a good, you're not going to take a massive hit on price. Now, I believe that any industry would have been better at bringing this down, and they would have still made as much money. I believe that Donald Trump, what do I know, I'm not a fucking politician, but I believe that if they got rid of this, they'll make just as much money as they will, and it'll hurt them less on the import taxation that they're going to do, because they are starting a trade war. This wouldn't if they got rid of this, or they brought it down to $170, $200 like we have in the UK. Anyway, digressing from there, let's have a look at the actual prices you will pay for American products going forward. You can see a Specialized in front of me. It's an LA Sport. I have taken an entry-level, a good entry-level aluminium disc brake bike. I've tried to take them across the board where they're comparable spec to a comparable price. Now, the only one that's the lower spec, because they don't do an entry-level bike with Shimano 105 on, is this one that you see there, and that's got the lower tier Shimano Tiagra on it. But that LA Sport is still £1,600. Now, that's going to go up by £160, obviously 10% more on there, so you'll be paying £1,760. So quite a big increase. It is quite a big increase. Now, bear in mind that none of these companies can sell any of these bikes at full price. None of these shops can sell any of these bikes at full price. It's fucking pointless. Unless they're 35 or 40% off, this is absolutely, it's horseshit. As we move to another American company, one of the big three in the American market for bicycles, the Trek Demone Alley 5 Gen 4. This is 105. This is the new trial speed 105 though, but everything else is generally the same spec, pretty much the same weight. I'd say probably the Specialized frame's a little bit better than this, but they're pretty much there in the same region. I wouldn't worry too much about that. So you're seeing this will now become, it's retailing for £2,000 at the moment. This will be £2,200. That's £2,200 for a fucking aluminium endurance road bike with disc brakes and a Shimano 105 group set. Now, you rewind this 5 years ago, you would be getting a very good, aluminium rim brake 105 spec'd road bike for £1,000. That's an increase. You almost double. You've more than doubled it in price over the last 6-7 years. It's bullshit. So this market itself could not afford to take any more increases before. Well, we're already alienating loads of people out of cycling and performance cycling as it is. So let's just finish with the Americanisms of Cannondale. And this is a Cannondale Synapse, okay, 105. This is the 11 speed, as I take it. Yeah, this is still the 105 11 speed. And this is an endurance aluminium framed road bike, you can see there, entry level pretty much, and that's going to cost you over £2,000 with the increase. It's stood at 1,900 now, and obviously it's going to go up by 10%. Now this is absolutely ridiculous. They were never cheap products to begin with. We were never getting a good deal in Europe. We were never getting a good deal wherever we were before, and this is why I completely disagree with this. I just see this as another opportunity for the major players in this market, to push their prices up yet again. And what they don't realise is no one's fucking buying. The only places where people are buying these bikes and they can shift any volume is actually the second world countries that are becoming first world countries. So you've got countries like India, you've got countries like people like, from Vietnam to Thailand, Indonesia. You've got these, South America, these emerging Africa, these emerging markets that can now start to afford these brands and these brand names. But what you're beginning to see is a lot of the actual builders at source, i.e. like Giant and Merida, showing their strength. And it isn't these little boys, like, I'm not saying little boys, but these companies that use these factories to build for them. Anything that's got their own name, they are growing massively. Now, I know that Giant's had a bad year, and I know that Merida's not had an ideal year because they're losing the West and the money of the West. But they are selling lower spec bikes to normal cyclists, whether that be commuters or entry-level road bikes, to emerging markets as they become, as these emerging markets or these emerging countries get stronger financially. So that's where that is. Now, what are the options left? So I'm just saying, I need to specify this, that all three of these bicycle brands are in a Pro Tour teams, okay? So they're represented at the top end of road cycling. I talk about road cycling mainly on my on this channel, so yeah, I don't want to digress off of that. Now that's why I chose these three as well. There are other brands like Schwinn, Rocky Mountain and stuff like that that are American companies that make bicycles as well, so let's not forget those. But these three are represented at the highest level in cycling. Okay, now I've just found a European brand that has a full range of bikes like these last three, that's represented under IKEA or IKEA Samsic or B&B Hotels, I think it is now, and that is Bianchi. Now Bianchi offers, and there's not going to be an increase on this bike because this is the UK spec price. This via Navarone 7 is £1,750 or £1,749, and you won't see an increase in this. This is Shimano 105 11 speed, same sketch as the other ones, and yes, at the moment it's the same price. That's actually cheaper than all of them, really, for like and for spec, than all three of those American brands without the increase. Now let's be sure about that. So this shouldn't get increased. It may do because they might choose to put their prices up individually, but that won't be down to tariffs. So as it stands for you as the customer, if you're in the UK, you don't want to pay the tariffs, why not buy something different? Why not buy European? Why not buy a Bianchi? Be a bit of an individual. Turn up to that club run with a different, name on the side of your bike. All these bikes are built in the Far East. All these bikes are built in China. They're all built, none of them are manufactured in Europe or, America or the UK and all this crap. Nothing. It's all being built in the Far East. It's all bang for buck. That's what it is. But this brand itself hasn't sold out. No one else owns, part of this brand. They are still based in Italy, and all the research and development still comes from Bianchi. So I think that's, if you need that, and you need that as a bit of a clout, and if you need that a bit of a peace of mind, you can do that with this brand. And there's many others. Do it with Cube. Cube is a German company. They race in the Pro Peloton. They've got a tier 1 team within. They're going to be at the Tour de France, and they have their own research and development coming out of Germany. Brilliant. But what I'm saying to you is, maybe now is the time to look outside of the Specialized, the Treks, the Cannondales. And I would say mainly the Specialized and the Treks. More individuals ride Cannondales, but it's the stranglehold that Trek and Specialized has in the UK on the bicycle market. And I would say actually globally or in the West. I would say actually in the West, actually. So yeah, look at something different. Look to buy something different. And why pay? Why keep paying more and more and more? So, guys, if you are disgusted by that absolute bullshit that the vice president of Specialized has spoken about fentanyl and just basically regurgitating the same words that Donald Trump is, to actually put the prices of bikes up, to restrict the imports into America of other brands whilst championing their own, the guy's absolutely fucking deluded, because he's cut out almost every other market to him if somebody wants to make the shift. Now, I think that if you're in Europe, no one's going to buy Specialized bikes anymore, and you can say goodbye to them. I've known a lot of bicycle dealers locally to me in the UK that have stopped dealing with Specialized just generally because they were so expensive. The pressure that they used to take the volume of bikes off of them, and how they've gone direct to customer, and also how they allow online retail giants to sell their product excessively discounted whilst offloading their product to the bicycle shops at full price. So basically they shaft them. But going forward, I just advise you not to pay more. I think it's enough. After COVID, the prices have been put up. This is the nail in the coffin for everyone, and this is our wake-up call. So yes, buy Bianchi. I'm not sponsored by Bianchi, but I think they're great bikes. I've owned a few in my lifetime. I've owned a few Specialized in my lifetime. I've owned a Trek in my lifetime, and I rate all the bikes good. I didn't really like Trek, to be honest, but the Specialized bikes were good. But the Bianchis that I've had have been beautiful, very nice bikes, even though they were still made in Asia. They were very, very nice riding bikes, very good quality. Paintwork was lovely, and the actual frame warranty is very, very good and quite good to deal with. So, if you like this type of content, please subscribe. Have your say in the comments. Let me know, are you still going to be buying US after the tariff increase? That I don't think really the UK should have suffered, because we represent America really well. We really do. We buy a lot of their products. We are loyal to them as well, I would say. So I do think that's a bit of a kick in the teeth for us and a kick in the balls. But I would, I'd buy European. I'd buy from the UK if you can. White bikes, they're UK branded bikes. Even have a look at stuff that's being distributed from China that's good, that's got a distribution set up in the UK. Elves bikes, why not? They've set up distribution in Australia and New Zealand as well, and also Europe. So why not have a look at Elves bikes, things like this? Now's the time to change, guys. Thanks for getting to the end of the last one. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao for now.